In 2018, John Lasseter left the Walt Disney Company, while the official word is that Iger and Lasser mutually decided that Lasseter should leave the company. That's how Bob Iger tells it, at least. As Pixar and Disney animation declined, more people are coming out of the woodwork to say that while John Lasseter was publicly known as a lovable father figure, there were in fact two sides to the man, and only people who worked with him got to see that second side. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. I'm Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. Our friends over at Film Threat got into a bit of hot water over their comments about the Marvels, and then a week later about Disney Animation's Wish. That's Wish the movie, not Wish the cruise ship. It would also seem that Alan Ng's comments in particular reverberated with someone. But according to Alan and his compatriot Chris Gore, Disney and Pixar animators started reaching out to tell them what it was really like working for Disney Animation and back before 2018 while working under John Lasseter. Let's get into it. In this article, the D-Files Part 1, which, first of all, this is my favorite part of this article, the promise that there will be more of them.
Yes.
Disney and the downfall of John Lasseter. People were pretty upset about Alan Ng's review of Wish, some saying that he was absolutely incorrect, and other people saying, yes, you are correct, and let me tell you what happened here. Such revelations as the movie being animated only over the course of 3 months. When you think about the history of this company, over 100 years, Snow White, for instance, being this company, this venture that the entire future of not just Walt Disney the company, but also Walt Disney the man writing on this film. And now you have this, the cinematic travesty being released. Has anyone read this article, first of all?
Nope.
No.
New to me.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
Let's journey together.
By Alan Ng, this coming out yesterday. How did we get here? As a Disney fan of over 50 years, I was a diehard Disney fanboy of the company to the point that Film Threat readers referred to me as a Disney shill. Do we get accused of that much around here?
Surely not.
Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away.
Yep. I used to spend thousands of dollars each year throughout the parks buying merch and watching every film that the Walt Disney Company produced. But something changed, and the so-called Disney magic began to fade. Today, thousands of dollars have turned into a scant of tens of dollars. I haven't visited a park since the dark times, and my excitement for anything Disney has turned to disdain. So again, what happened? Our story begins with a single event not so long ago that fundamentally changed the company culturally and creatively. Mind you, this single event is not the reason for the fall of Disney, as we'll show. Those seeds had been planted long ago during the Eisner era. This event served as their catalyst for the inevitable creative and financial collapse of the company that Walt Disney started 100 years ago. As Elon Musk surmised, Walt Disney is spinning in his grave like a drill bit. Wow.
Good intro.
The single event was the removal of Disney's chief creative officer, John Lasseter. The story of Lasseter's demise will be told from the perspective of the rank-and-file Disney employees at Disney and Pixar, revealing what they observed and how they felt when it happened. Can anyone here, if there's somehow someone in the audience who is not familiar with John Lasseter, someone give a brief summation of who he is and where he came from before he came to Disney?
Yeah, he was a famous animator, actually, taught by some of the 9 old men, actually, back in the 1970s on classic animation techniques and so forth. And he actually worked at Disney around that time. Unfortunately, he was a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to the integration of 3D technologies and so forth.
He was a skipper on the Jungle Boat, wasn't he?
He was. He was, I believe he was also maybe a custodian as well at Disneyland, but that was in his very, very, very early years. Well, then, after he was dismissed from Disney, went in animation, he went and went over to Lucasfilm in order to participate in the creation of what would become Pixar. After Steve Jobs bought the company, and they went public and so forth, Disney got into a distribution deal for Toy Story, right? And, the rest is history until about the point where Iger steps into the equation, buys Pixar along with John Lasseter, and sets him on as pretty much the head of creative, not just for the animation studios, but also for the parks themselves. And that relationship blossoms into something that's that was pretty revolutionary for Disney and Pixar at the time. And unfortunately, 2017 happened, as this article will probably go into.
Right.
And
Very good.
Can I just interject here? Many years ago, during one of the very few strikes the Directors Guild ever had, the president of the guild made a speech and said, what these big industrial companies, at that time he was talking about Coca-Cola and the Japanese and everybody was buying studios, what they don't understand about the movie business is that in this industry, the capital equipment goes home every night.
Ah, that's well said.
When you're buying Pixar, what you're buying is not an animation physical studio. You're buying creative people like John Lasseter.
Correct.
And to defy that, as they did, is really stupid.
Right.
Right.
Purchasing
Instrumental
active and kinetic knowledge.
Right.
Yes.
And to just to simply put this was a talent acquisition. That is when you buy a company in order to get one person, and you happen to get this company along with it. And obviously, Iger's first step here, as is stated in this article, was the $7.4 billion purchase of Pixar, the best money that Bob Iger has ever spent. No question. Yes. He got his money back because he fixed 2 studios by hiring John Lasseter for all that money. Obviously, they got some assets in there. It wasn't $7.4 billion that just left. Obviously, that went to owners and shares and all that stuff. But
and created a brain trust that would help shepherd future acquisitions and future creative products.
Right. I'll also add that Ed Catmull was part of this this deal, and he's no longer with the Walt Disney Company. He's gone to a production entity called Baobab, which I'll be doing a lot more research on that, and we'll be talking about that on That Park Place sometime in the future. But moving on here, who is John Lasseter, the man? Our sources describe him as 2 different people. In speaking to current and former Disney Pixar animation employees, support staff, and outside independent contractors, the consensus was that Lasseter was a joy to work with. Disney fans saw him as a father figure. He worked hard to create an environment where everyone felt like family and looked forward to coming to work every day. Each day. Other sources who hoped one day to become artists and animators once believed that working at Pixar was the ultimate dream, and for many, were excited to one day work with John Lasseter. But like a father, John Lasseter was a perfectionist. I would imagine this is the other side to John Lasseter being 2 people. His insistence on absolute perfection was notorious for everyone who worked with him, meaning everyone. I was told numerous stories of his almost stone-cold criticisms of creative choices. When presenting one's ideas to Lasseter, all emotion would drain from his body, and he would matter-of-factly tell you why your idea sucked, and then tell you how to make it better. Many who understand John Lasseter saw this.
By the way, it's that second part that really matters. There's there is a type of leadership where you just tell people what they've done wrong, but you don't provide them with a better solution.
Exactly.
So that it needs to be emphasized that he didn't leave these people hanging with no path forward.
He was cutthroat, but cutthroat for a reason, right? Like, he had gone through his own troubles, in which if he failed, he would have been out of a job. He wouldn't be able to provide for his family. He was very instrumental in making the Pixar the hit powerhouse that it became to be, right? So it's like, if anything doesn't measure up, you have to cast aside those ideas simply because you have to keep the success train going.
Absolutely agreed. Many who understand John Lasseter saw this as a stinging learning opportunity, yet this tough love was applied equally to all. Again, a focus on equality here. Pro, when you and I are talking about improving the channel, there might be some moments where we will talk and we'll be a little cagey and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? But when we're actually trying to get things done and talking about improving the channel, how much do we compliment each other when we're doing it?
Well, when we're attempting to diagnose a problem and solve the problem, I don't know that our top of mind is to be commendable to everyone. However, I would say that on the backside of that, when things begin to work, we're very pleased with it, and we are careful to say, "Well done, you did great on this," or etc.
Right.
And,
We're
in the
both
maelstrom of fixing things,
Guys, over in the chat, Is This Live says, so he is the Steve Jobs of animation.
Yes,
And that's
absolutely.
exactly right on.
I would
Thank you,
say
Is This Live?
he's the modern Walt Disney, as we'll get into here. As the article continues. What many considered Lasseter's most significant attributes soon turned in. Oh, wait, I skipped one. Not everyone saw it that way. One source recounted observing a prominent figure at Pixar who had their idea derided by Lasseter and took it as a personal attack, and not just their ideas, but also on them. It was apparent that to this observer, this fatherly persona of warm and loving Lasseter was instantly dashed. What many considered Lasseter's most significant attributes soon turned into a weapon against him. From a management standpoint, his insistence on perfection meant that most creative decisions about a project had to be run by him. This single point of approval created a bottleneck in Disney Animation and Pixar. Projects were delayed because people were waiting for Lasseter's approval. This problem reached a boiling point among Disney executives with the failure of Good Dinosaur. Maybe John is biting off more than he can chew. Can anyone describe the plot of Good Dinosaur?
It's about a good dinosaur.
Western. It's a Western with anthropomorphized dinosaurs attempting to deliver a. Oh wait, now I realize it. I'm describing Ice Age, but with dinosaurs. Darn it.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's Peter Sohn, which Peter Sohn is everything. I understand he's a very nice guy. He directed that one, but I think he was also not the first director of that film. It's forgettable. What else came out pretty close to Good Dinosaur that maybe could balance this out? Inside Out, which everyone acknowledges is a fantastic film. A film that would have been the concept of Inside Out is one that is very difficult to thread the landing on. If you don't have a John Lasseter, you take a similar concept and you get something like the Emoji Movie over at Sony.
Right. And he was, I mean, the I think the person who could maybe see that maybe he was extending himself too much was actually his wife. His wife was very protective because she kind of understood that Lasseter had a tendency to like overextend himself and really get involved in the projects, and you know, anything that he would see, he would kind of take it on personally. And I will admit, I will agree, I should say, that he did. He did demand and want the best out of all these things, and you know, maybe he was spreading himself a little bit too thin, but it was always with the notion that they were creating the best works that they possibly could, right? That it was quality first, audience focused, audience driven. You know, it's very different than the modern Walt Disney Company without Lasseter, that's for sure.
Well, and I would also suggest that Peter Sohn had two failures in a row. I mean, he's not exactly a great director as far as films go, Pixar or otherwise.
Right, and he does seem to be a very nice person. I don't want to insult him too much. I don't dislike the man in any way.
And a good vocal artist, mind you.
Yeah, he's. I'm trying to think who it is in the Pixar films he's voiced, but also I think his son might have been the voice of Russell.
Well, you know, the other thing, this shows you the difference between animators and actors. Actors spend their entire lives going on auditions and being told no, and being told you're not right or you're no good or whatever. And the good ones have enough of a sense of self and ego and destiny and whatever you want to call it to get through that kind of criticism. Yeah. But if these people were so thin-skinned that somebody saying that doesn't work and here's how to make it better is a problem for them, it's their problem, not his.
Right, and I don't want to get into a kids these days kind of conversation, but our culture does not like feedback that is directly delivered. When we do have our creative sessions where we're trying to work through something creatively, the best feedback that I've gotten from Pro on something was, hey, look at this right here. Contrast doesn't work. This doesn't work. You're trying to communicate this idea. It's not coming through. It's direct. It doesn't waste time. And by the way, the entire point of the Pixar Brain Trust and then later on the Disney Story Group, all of that was having people at the top of their game, the most brilliant people that you could get, putting in ideas and saying, this doesn't work. I don't think you're communicating this idea. How can we work together to create great art that will be maximized for the audience? Now, In lesser hands, I think that we get Wish, that we get Frozen 2. We get all of the things that have been, and I know Frozen 2 made a bunch of money, but it was mostly a referendum on Frozen 1. You get these lesser products, and I'm going to say that you even get Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny, made with a story group of 1 or 2 people trying to make that film into something that is the most potent for the box office, but taking scraps of ideas over and over again until you finally mix it up and you say, this is what I want to communicate, and none of it comes through. I'm going to venture a guess and say that if John Lasseter was in charge of Lucasfilm, that Indiana Jones 5 would have been a much better film.
And by the way, John Lasseter was over creative at Disney, so he would have been able to have looked at that and said, no, wait a minute. Striking Short Round out of the script is $1 billion mistake. Yeah. We'd like to not make $1 billion mistake, so let's not do that.
And supposedly Walt threw out a bunch of Alice in Wonderland and redid it. I mean, like a year's worth of work.
Yeah.
Because he saw it wasn't working.
Yeah. But you know what we're describing here is we're describing objective success and a proven track record going up against the subjective force of today, which is my truth. And you can't argue with someone who believes in simply my truth, because when you declare to them that what they are doing doesn't reach their full potential, they don't believe in potential anyway. In fact, they resent potential. They're happy to have been given the opportunity to use whatever privilege they have to arrive at the Walt Disney Company, but they resent what Disney was, and they resent the idea that you're going to correct them. So once you let them in, they're like a virus. You know, the best way to solve your problem is to never have hired them in the first place, because they are the antithesis. Yes, Disney, I know the meaning of it. They are the antithesis of success for everything you're trying to do, because they don't know how to measure success.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think John Lasseter went too far, or is this all just part of the creative process? You tell us, because we'd love to know your thoughts. This clip was part of our now regular Thursday live stream, which starts at noon Eastern time. Of course, if you're not in that time zone, just hit the notification bell if you want YouTube to tell you when that is. Like this video if you like this video. If you know somebody who is as interested as we are in this kind of thing, then maybe you should share the link with them. And of course, please consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.